royal family of Hyrule has been the central force within the Legend of Zelda games and the entire universe of Zelda from even before their chronological inception. For the most part, they usually control Hyrule and its many factions through a unified government of many other smaller kingdoms that either have sworn loyalty to the crown or have been dominated by territory.
The royal family are the keeper of many secrets and truths when it comes to the history of Hyrule and its most sacred relics and locations. The royal family to this point have been comprised of multiple known kings, queens, princesses and the prince, along with various factions of servants and soldiers such as the Sheikah and the Knights of Hyrule, not to be confused with the Hylian army. Though the royal family has been a focal point throughout the entirety of Zelda's history, there are many attributes about this bloodline that is either hazy or totally unclear.
And that's why we are here, to theorize and discuss the secrets of the royal family. First, we need to ask the question, why was the royal family even created? Since we know the roots of the family itself, it comes from the reincarnation of Hylia, who we know as the first Zelda in Skyward Sword in the game's events.
After the people returned to the surface, it was Zelda's wish to protect the Triforce. But looking at it from a straightforward point, wouldn't it make more sense to have a family of guardians that watch over the Triforce, rather than building an entire kingdom surrounding it?
The royal family of Hyrule was conceived near the end of the era of Chaos, in my theory to control the Chaos, since they feel the need to protect the Triforce and the Sacred Realm because of their closeness to the goddess and their chosen status. This obviously gives them power over the land and an army to build to protect it and themselves.
At the same time, it also puts them in constant dangers due to warring factions. They then hid knowledge of the Triforce to the public, leading to the panic of the Light Force in Minish Cap.
The Monarch of Hyrule has only revealed himself in a handful of games. This is the Legend of Zelda, so I understand the immediate focus on the princess acting as the ruler, but this isn't the case for every game. So far, the appearances of the King of Hyrule have been in A Link to the Past, an unnamed king who was known as a good king who was killed by Aghanim shortly before the events of the game. The Wind Waker, King Dofnus no Hansen Hyrule, the spirit bound to the sunken Hyrule who also doubles as the King of Red Lions. The Minish Cap, King Daltis, the King of Hyrule ruling during the time of the Minish Cap. However, there are also kings that are referred to behind the scenes of the games, and this includes...
Then we have Adventure of Link, the good King of Hyrule who used and split the Triforce before his death. Ocarina of Time, the king who unified the country and was supposedly eliminated by Ganondorf after gaining his trust. King Gustav, earliest known king, perhaps the son or grandson of Zelda from Skyward Sword. Throughout the games, it is shown that the king's devotion to his country was unwavering, even to the point of giving his life for Hyrule.
From what we gather of the games, we can infer that the King of Hyrule is also a pacifist by nature, using various measures and methods to avoid war and maintain peace. The King of Hyrule has also shown to have wisdom that may even surpass that of Zelda's.
A huge indication of this is in the Adventure of Link, when it is told that the good King of Hyrule was one of the few people in the entire Zelda chronology who have mastered the entire Triforce, and knowing its power, searched for a successor to uphold it. During his life he was not successful in finding another who could wield its power, not even his children, and was wise enough to break it into multiple fragments until one who would prove themselves could wield it.
At various points in the Zelda chronology, it seems very convenient that in times of darkness and the rise of the hero that the king is either absent, killed, or imprisoned, or powerless in the face of evil, that his daughter, Zelda, and Link must be the ones to stop the threat, harkening back to the statement of the king always being able to control the entire Triforce.
Fate would have that the King of Hyrule always seems to be the most powerful figure in the Zelda universe, which is why when he is at his prime, evil never creeps under his watch, unless it's an exceedingly powerful entity.
Throughout the annals of history in the Zelda universe, there are a great number of royal family members known, and perhaps an even greater number of immediate and branching members as well, from even before the inception of the royal family at the times of Skyward Sword.
We all know that the origins of Zelda stems from the goddess Hylia and her reincarnation, but what of the other members of her family that came before her?
The question that I'm pointing out is that of course Zelda in Skyward Sword is the mortal incarnation of the goddess Hylia, but she had a family. She does have blood running through her veins, and her father was indeed Gapora of Skyloft, and he too was tied to the legends of Hylia, being one of the Sword Guardians of the Chamber of the Sword up on Skyloft during the events of Skyward Sword. This signifies that the royal family definitely had a past destiny of importance before actually becoming the royal family of Hyrule.
Within the royal family of Hyrule, there are factions that serve their focal point of military. The most known and perhaps most important is the clan of Knights of Hyrule, not to be confused with common Hylian soldiers. The kingdom's knights and soldiers often play an important role in defending Hyrule, but thanks to the timeline split of the Ocarina of Time, we perhaps may spherize their fate in each of the branches of the Zelda timeline.
In the child timeline, they become pansies, for the lack of a better term. After dodging Ganondorf's coup thanks to Link's warning and the great wars and clashes due to Ganondorf's uprising never happened, Hyrule enjoyed an abnormal amount of peace for many years. I believe that in that time, the royal family and its military got too comfortable and relaxed. With Ganondorf out of the picture, who would rise up against them?
And the Zant and the Shadow Invasion. We can easily see that the Hylian soldiers were decimated by the enemy, and later on in the game, when offering to escort Ilya and Telma to Kakariko, the knights showed their cowardice when hearing they may have to face monsters. This along with the fact that if you become a wolf in the Castletown market, the soldiers that respond to the people's panic are shown to quiver at the sight of one wolf. Really guys? While all this is happening, the Knights of Hyrule are nowhere to be seen. However, they do reappear in Forzo's adventures along with a better military. Somewhat, perhaps, they learned a lesson in Twilight Princess.
In the adult timeline, they become pirates, as before the events of the Great Flood, King Dofnus no Hansen Hyrule sent his daughter Zelda at the time, along with some attendants and knights to the mountaintops of Hyrule. These individuals obviously bear resemblance to Tetra's pirate crew, being their descendants. It's common in history that in times of peace, military men who are out of work turn to piracy, using their skills to plunder for personal gain. Wind Waker obviously alludes to this possibility, as knights will be able to put their skills to great use as pirates in that age.
In the Downfall timeline, they became a strong army. This has to be the most logical understanding. After the fall of the hero and the impending imprisoning war, the army had to truly step to protect the land. After that war and the constant threat of Ganon now being locked in the Dark World, and the words of the Triforce now in the ears of many across the land, the knights and soldiers had to drastically increase their standards if they wanted to be of any use. This shows true in A Link to the Past, as the Hyrule military was no joke. So much so that Aghanim made use of them by controlling their minds for his bidding. However, in later games in this timeline, the kingdom fell in massive decline and its military along with it.
The Interloper War, the first battle for the Triforce after the Ancient Battle. The Sheikah split into two factions: Loyalists, those allied with the royal family and the reincarnated Hylia, and the Insurgents, who defeated the Hylians in battle and used the Fuse Shadow to seal the Triforce away from the Hylians. When the gods intervened, they took the Fuse Shadow away and made the Insurgents vulnerable and surrounded by enemies.
Then we have the Hyrulean Civil War, or the Unification War. The royal family sought to unite all the provincial kingdoms under one ruler and monarch, the King of Hyrule. Two groups opposed this idea, the Sheikah and the Gerudo. In the next couple of years, two factions fought the Unification Alliance and the Independence Coalition. The Unification Alliance consisted of the Hylians, led by the king and supported by the loyalist Impa, the Gorons, led by the Arunia, the Zoras, led by King Zora the Bond 16, and partially the Deku. They fought against the Independence Coalition, which consisted of the Sheikah, led by Bongo Bongo, and the Gerudo, which were led by the young Ganondorf.
The war lasted for many years, where the Hero of Time's father was killed in battle and his mother was forced to flee to the Lost Woods. The war remained indecisive until the Gerudo betrayed the Sheikah and joined the Unification Alliance, leaving the Sheikah to burn and bleed. Outcome: Hyrule is united under one king and monarch, the end of the provincial sovereignty of many races and the subsequent extermination of the insurgent Sheikah. Ganondorf swears allegiance to the king and gains his trust, but at the same time plots to obtain the Triforce. Ocarina of Time. Ganondorf storms the Hyrule Castle, murders the Unification King, Princess Zelda flees under her caretaker Impa's protection, and Ganondorf obtains the Triforce of Power. Ganondorf then crowns himself king and prepares for the return of the Hero of Time. Downfall. Imprisoning War. Ganondorf managed to obtain the full Triforce after defeating the Hero of Time and transforms into Ganon. The 7 stages, led by Princess Zelda, managed to seal him, but since the location of the Triforce was exposed, over time, greedy souls sought to find it and instead ended up in the now corrupted Sacred Realm, the Dark World, and are transformed into monsters. Ganon unleashed his minions in an attempt to break the seal cast on him, and the new king ordered the Sacred Realm to be sealed by 7 wise men. Thanks to the sacrifice of the brave and heroic Hyrulean knights, the monsters failed to stop the 7 wise men from sealing the Sacred Realm. Outcome: the Sacred Realm is sealed with Ganon trapped inside of it. I hope you enjoyed our introduction into the exploration of the royal family's history and our theories behind it. There are more to come. This is only the beginning. Big thanks to Commonworth Realm. Go check out his channel for more Zelda goodness. Be sure to subscribe, favorite, share, and like the video. And until the next Zelda Theory, I've been HMK, and I'll check you guys later.